What's going on, guys? Welcome to the first episode of my podcast called Empty the Clip. So the reasoning for this podcast is I've been getting requests on long form information about myself, things that I use in the health and fitness world, discussing topics, certain things, and I wanted to come up with a name. I wasn't sure. I was kind of like messing around with a few ideas and settled on Empty the Clip because the mentality that I've been using for the past few months has been really helpful in training. And for me, the mantra of empty the clip means emptying out the tank, giving everything and every ounce of yourself throughout the entirety of the day or throughout the entirety of the action that you're completing, whether it's in the gym, you're doing homework, you're at work itself, you're trying to knock out some emails, whatever it may be. Empty the clip, get it done, check it off, don't leave a stone unturned, don't start something and not finish it. Empty the clip. I've been using that in my training as like in the last minute of a workout or the last round. That's where you empty the clip. You burn up all the energy you have left, so at the end of the workout you have nothing left to give. And so another thing with this that I want to do is I want to do this at night. This may change, but again, this is the last piece of content that I will most likely create. Thus, I'm emptying the clip on the content that I'm putting out to you guys on a daily basis. And so for the first episode, I was thinking, what do I want to talk about? Do I want to talk about fitness? Do I want to talk about the current events that's going on in the world? I don't want to make this a political podcast. So I thought the best place to start is talking a little bit about myself. And for this episode, we are going to call it the Undocumented Story. Everything from my birth to before I started my fitness journey, taking it online. So you're gonna see everything that is not physically documented about my health and my fitness journey leading up to, I believe, the end of 2018, beginning of 2019 is when I started my fitness account, beginning of 2019. So we've been at it for 2 years now on the social media grind, starting on Instagram and then branching off, of course, into Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and a little bit of Facebook. So, getting things started, born March 21st, 1998, in North Carolina. My mom is Asian. She's about 5 feet tall. So I got a good mix of her genes and I got a good mix of my dad's genes, he was, I believe, 6'2". So getting towards it, starting out, we're gonna talk with sports. Very interested in tennis early on. My mom got me in gymnastics. As she was a cheerleader in high school, my dad was a basketball player. So I didn't actually get interested in basketball until later on, but we'll talk about that a little bit later in the podcast. But first thing starting, tennis, gymnastics, and eventually moved to soccer. So the reason that I'm number 4 in many of my sports is because I believe when I was 4 years old when I started soccer, like that was the number. I was like, oh, this is my age. And it just signified the number that I wanted to hold throughout the entirety of my career. So I was always number 4 throughout rec, travel, as much as I possibly could be number 4. So growing up, playing soccer, was never the best athlete. Very average all around. I was a little pudgy. Definitely did not have the diet I have now. I was pretty much eating whatever, whenever, as often as possible. My mom, a single mom at the time, as my father, who unfortunately got addicted to painkillers early on in my life, shortly after my brother was born in 2001. So I was a few years old, so I didn't have him for the majority of my life. So growing up with a single parent, many fatherly influences that brought me up. Soccer was my main focus. I played a little bit of lacrosse. I think that started in middle school, and I played that through 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Stopped playing in high school, but picked it back up. Oh, I'm sorry, I lied. Started it in elementary school. So I think like 4th grade. So I played 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. I was not gonna play in high school, but I had guys convince me, so that spring I picked it up. So I took a whole year off and then played and learned a ton of great lessons there. So I'm bouncing around a little bit because I'm just trying to compartmentalize how I wanna stitch everything together. And so I think the best way of doing it is starting with soccer, and we'll move throughout sport to sport to sport. So I played soccer, basketball, lacrosse, and I even ran track for a year in high school, but we'll get to that when we get to the later years of my high school journey. So starting off with soccer, played rec, wanted to move on in the next level of competitiveness because a bunch of my friends were moving on to travel teams, and I was like, I could do this. First experience of failure in life that I can vividly remember is showing up to this big open field for the travel team. I was a year younger than most of the kids, and we started the warm-up lap. It was a big 11-a-side soccer field, much different than the 8v8 smaller field. And as we're doing the warm-up lap, I was like, this is way too much running. I felt sick. It's because I was out of shape and I was fat, say what it is. And I simply could not keep up with the team. And I just sat down halfway around the lap and I just laid down on the ground feeling like a failure because I could not make the warm-up lap. I was out of shape and I went home. It was super embarrassing. My best friend at the time, who is still my best friend, made the team, and all those guys played together, and I continued to play rec. Then there was a travel team that we formed. It was the Rec All-Stars, played in a tournament. We did well together, forming what was known as the AFC Cougars, Abingdon Football Club at the time. And from there were certain fatherly figures that incentivized me to become a better soccer player, train, see what hard work can do for you at a young age, and it was a very good influence that I think helped catapult me to future successes that I will be talking about for my athletic career. Moving on to high school for soccer. Going in freshman year, not knowing what to expect, super nervous, a lot of kids trying out. I worked really hard. I went to all the summer conditionings, was throwing up, having knee pains. If you've ever had Osgood-Schlatter's disease, it's where your legs are growing so fast and your tendons are all stretched out, and it causes quite a bit of pain when you flex the knee joint, trying to run, jump, and walk is pretty much impossible without pain. So I wore these weird looking knee bands. You'd have to like wrap around your knees and they'd pop off left and right because the Velcro would give out. But that was a lot of the foundations of my mental toughness, is those summer camps for soccer leading into tryouts. So freshman year all the way through senior year, I would attend these summer conditioning camps with a future teammate in college, and then eventually lead the camps myself and get and take over for that after I graduated. And that was pretty much my training camp leading up to all my college seasons that I played in. So in high school, made JV freshman year, didn't play a whole lot, but got a couple minutes. I was like first or second off the bench, which was, in my opinion, pretty good for a freshman, but I wish I was a little bit more ambitious and wanted to get in that starting position. Sophomore year, JV captain, and then we go into my junior year. And this is where I really feel that my hard work paid off. I trained exceptionally hard. I ate well. I cleaned up my diet. I lost weight. I went to the gym. I put on muscle. It was as fit as I possibly could be. Unfortunately, 2 weeks before tryouts, I went up for a header playing in a game, and I came down on my ankle, and I didn't know it at the time, but I fractured my ankle. Caused an immense amount of swelling. I couldn't walk. So the week leading up to tryouts, when we were at, the summer conditionings that I was talking about, the coach was there. He noticed, and he's like, you should not be practicing because there was something wrong. Clearly, like, I couldn't even run. I could barely walk. So I took a week off, went throughout tryouts, made the team. But the ankle pain was still there because, again, I only thought I rolled my ankle. I didn't know I fractured a bone in my ankle. And so throughout that entire soccer season, I played with a fractured ankle, got tape on it, tried to wear different cleats. Again, the amount of work that I put in that summer was 2-a-days. So in the mornings I would train at the gym, and in the afternoon or evenings it was training for soccer. So putting in that amount of work and wanting to see it pay off, I was not going to give up my season to go get this thing checked out, even though I knew something was really wrong with it. But it helped build a little bit of character, a little bit of grit, and I played a whole season with a fractured ankle. And I did the same with basketball. It progressively got better, but overall in soccer season, especially since you use your ankles, it's way worse when you're kicking a ball. Basketball, it kind of healed. And then lacrosse that season, I broke my hand. I punched a kid in the face, and we'll dive into that later, but I want to get through the soccer thing first, and we'll talk about that. But that's when I really allowed my ankle to heal, is when I broke my fist on a kid's face. And it allowed me to reflect and be like, okay, I gotta get this thing healthy. So I got my ankle healthy, repaired my hand, and then from there, my ankle was good. Still feel it from time to time, but overall, it's good. So, soccer in college. Coming in, trying to be the most fit I possibly can be. Oh, sorry, I skipped over senior year of high school. Senior year of high school, the most fit I had been up to that point until I got into college. As fit as I possibly could be. I took things I learned junior year and implemented them into my senior year. So I got healthy in the spring when I broke my hand. Senior year, I'm ready to go. I knew we weren't going to be as talented, so I needed to be as fit as possible, as smart as possible, educate myself, watching countless YouTube videos on how to be a better defender, just immersing myself in the game, right? And one of the defining moments too for that season was not giving up on the team, even though you knew you weren't where you were talent-wise, but being able to lead like a group of guys in a certain direction where you wanted to take the team. Clearly, we wanted to win the conference championship. We knew, probably in the back of our minds, that states was out of the question, but to be able to lead the guys and have that first real, true leadership role was critical in the sense that I learned how other leaders interacted with the team, how other teammates interacted, and how to deal with certain circumstances, and how to get the guys to a common goal. Still ended up having a great season. It didn't end how we wanted it to, but it was a good learning experience. Moving on to college. College soccer, freshman year coming in, most fit I was, probably still was senior year of high school. I was a little bit bulkier because I was just being told you had to bulk up because the kids are bigger, more aggressive. And mental block there. But the kids were more aggressive, and you had to be X, Y, and Z. You had to be better with your touch, which I improved on. But then I also got more muscular, and I weighed in at like a hefty 185. I was just too heavy. I was way too muscular, so I was only good for like 20, 30 minutes at a time. And thankfully, coming in as a freshman, that's all I really got. It was like 20, 30 minutes at a time, so it worked out really well. But I cut down the future years after that. I definitely cut down weight, and I was at like a healthy 175, 180 throughout the season. So I cut back a few pounds. It definitely needed to, and it was definitely helpful. And I don't advocate anybody that plays soccer or an endurance-based sport to put on mass amounts of muscle. So after that freshman year, so we go into sophomore year, I'm more fit. The goal was to play more. I do get more playing time. So it went from about 20, 30 minutes a game to about 45. Even got a couple of my first starts, as we had a couple of the knuckleheads on our team get suspended or get injured. So I had to fill in that starting role, which was an honor. But there's a lot to learn. Being able to play 90 minutes, there's a whole nother level of fitness that I needed that I took into my sophomore year, but we'll talk about that in a separate episode, as I did start my fitness influencer social media journey in that sophomore season after soccer was over. So let's flip to lacrosse. Lacrosse has probably taught me the most about the mental side or mental game of athletics, being able to go into the most transferable skills. So again, I started elementary school, it was like 4th or 5th grade. A majority of my friends growing up were lacrosse players. And the biggest things that I learned was hard work, grit, and the ability to withstand the cold. Because tryouts were in the winter, it was very cold, very uncomfortable, hands were numb, did not have the best equipment, but this is the first time where I can reflect on these coaches cared, in my opinion, as much, if not more, as my soccer coaches, in the sense that they want to see you develop and grow. And a couple of these coaches I'm still good friends with today, and would be willing to sit down and have a conversation with me at any time. Some of the best fatherly influences came from lacrosse, and I'm very thankful for them. And again, this is why I think that youth sports is super important and is a necessity. Also in lacrosse, so another story about perseverance and building my way up. So as I said, I took off that 8th grade year, didn't play for a whole year, but I went freshman year. Guys convinced me to play. I wasn't about it, but I like the boys. They're like, okay, let's try this thing, because it was a former travel coach who was the JV coach at the time. And going through, I knew that I'm like 3rd string after I made the team, which I was surprised about, but I knew that my conditioning was there and I could get through most of the drills at a high performance rate. But I knew that I wasn't the top tier guys. Like, there were dudes that were definitely better than me as sophomores and even freshmen. Like, both classes were very, very talented. I knew coming in I was just going to be not a scrub, but in between like a 1st string and 3rd. So like, place myself as like the 3rd or 4th team, and I knew that I was not going to play a whole lot, but I was determined to work really hard. And so the coach noticed that for every sprinting drill or drill that required just effort and pure grit, I was busting my butt and just blowing guys out of the water. Now granted, I wasn't playing in every single drill, and a lot of times I was watching, so I had all this stored up energy, but whenever there was a chance for me to perform, I performed at the highest level possible, emptying the clip every single practice. And it eventually got recognized, and I think it was like the 4th or 5th game of the season for the JV squad, and I got the start, I got to play, I was in the starting lineup, I come in, and I score the first goal of the game off a simple cut and just a dink right into the goal. And again, that was a defining moment, because I knew that the hard work that I put in practice paid off into a game, and it was perfect circumstances and putting myself in the right position at the right time to receive that opportunity to score a goal. And again, that's why I believe that lacrosse has taught me the foundations of hard work, and that it truly, truly does pay off. Now, unfortunately, I did not continue with lacrosse my senior year. It just wasn't what I felt was right in my heart. The passion was not there. So I really didn't play junior year because I broke my hand. And my senior year, I did not play, and I chose track. Now, track taught me a lot. Track taught me that it is a very interesting and specified sport. It's way more to it than just running. There's way more to it than just jumping and throwing objects, right? There's a huge different community feel to it. Abilities and training is super important, and having good coaches. It taught me a lot about myself as I was running the 2-mile run. Very grueling race for, 12 to 16 minutes at a time, depending on how fast I was running on the day. But I was a dude that was way too big to be running the 200. I looked like a sprinter, but I was running these long distance runs, which were not favorable. But again, taking experiences from track and implementing it into stuff that I do today, it improved my running form and technique, which I think helped me ultimately run my marathon in my sophomore year of college. And meeting some great people who, again, still can be good friends with. If I contacted them today, they'd probably sit down again and have a conversation with me. So again, the importance of youth sports, meeting and diversifying your athletic abilities, seeing what you like, seeing what you don't like. I know that I'm not a natural born runner. I know that I'm not a natural born lacrosse player, but taking some of those things towards my athleticism, towards CrossFit, has definitely been applicable through those sports. And lastly, let's talk about basketball. Honestly, probably my favorite sport to play. Played this in middle school is when I started on the rec team. Lefty, so I had a decent shot, could throw off kids because they always thought I was going right, but could maneuver left and get to the cup and score. I liked being a shooter, inspired by Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. At the time, wasn't a huge LeBron James fan at the time, but I'm a pretty decent fan now. I think that his work ethic and body of work is something to embody, not to embody, something that we should take notice of for future athletes, that I think will be very popularized, also as a businessman in a sense, but that's on a little side tangent. So back to basketball, freshman year, another big disappointment. I got cut from basketball. I made it sophomore year, got named captain. Again, it's JV, it's not that big of a deal. But to see that from going cut to being able to be a starter and captain and play was awesome. Put in the work, I grew a little bit, got a little better. Stuff paid off for me JV year. Junior year, made the team, so I carried over skills I learned from freshman, sophomore year into junior year, made the team. And again, a lot of these guys were soccer players, so being in that culture is a very comfortable feeling to be and playing with those guys and being competitive and being a little bit more in my element. Not a great player, didn't play a whole lot, but I was average enough, I was good enough to be on the team, brought some good energy. Again, emptied the clip in practice, trained really, really hard, got a lot better, but still not, breaking in any significant minutes. So the thing that I believe foundationally taught me perseverance and patience is senior year of high school, specifically the basketball season. So not that you should build off of expectation, but going from playing in sophomore year, you could expect yourself to play more senior year, but really not really, because you have a lot of young talent that can come up and play, and that's what happened. There were a lot of guys that were good. I made the team senior year. I didn't play a whole lot, and I have nothing against my coach. If he ever sees this video, Coach, I have nothing against you. Thank you for making me a better man, but we're just speaking from the heart right now. That season, I emptied the clip. Mentally, physically, and spiritually. It was not the season I intended. I wasn't expecting myself to start and play every single minute, but I had expectations for myself to make an impact in games, get some sense of significant minutes, whether it was 5 or 10 significant minutes. But the story is, I only got in when we were getting our butts whooped or we were killing a team. So I was getting the most insignificant minutes possible. And if you've ever felt that way, I know exactly how you feel. You feel like a loser. You feel like the time that you put in isn't worth it. And you feel like your coaches aren't noticing you and you're trying to ask questions on what do you need to work in. And when you work on them, you don't see anything different happening in the playing arrangement of players, like who's ahead of you. Even though you may believe that you're better, you might have a little bit of delusion. And I may have had a little delusion, but in my mind, I really thought I should have played. And at this time, I would go to the gym in the morning before school. I'd work out. I could have school. I would practice or have a game. And I was doing two-a-days, man. I was working. I was getting pretty good. My ball handling was solid. Shooting was solid. Still wasn't enough. And I was getting really frustrated. There was many nights where I was just up, thinking, should I keep playing? And one of the not so great parts about it was the fact that I was a captain, and not that captains should play, but it's hard to lead a team when you're on the bench. And that was a very difficult pill to swallow. But again, teaching me character, perseverance, and patience. So a couple stories with it. The defining moment of the season where I completely broke and emptied the clip mentally. We were playing a rival. The gym is packed. We're at their stadium or at their stands. A good part of my high school's there. A good part of their high school's there. It's pretty much filled to the brim. I'm not playing. For the majority of the game, I get in. I think it's either like the end of the third or midway through the fourth. Probably midway through the fourth, because we were down by this point like 30 points. They were killing us. They had a state championship level team that won states that year. They were on fire. I get in. I'm super amped up. I'm excited. A lot of energy. I played some good defense. Got a rebound. I think I got like an assist. So I'm like, okay, we're doing good things. Coach is leaving me in. I've been in for about 4 or 5 minutes. And I'm open on the if you've ever been on a basketball court, so you have the key, the arc. I'm on that left side. There was like a swing play, and I rolled off of a pick. Dude bounced past me the ball. I look at the cup to shoot a three and try to score. This very large individual was coming at me to block my shot, and I thought it would be a good idea to try to arc it a little more over top of him, even though I had plenty of space. Like, there's no way he was going to close me down and block me, so I put a little more air on the ball. And instead of going into the hoop, I shot the ball over the backboard completely in front of like a few thousand people. And that was a very just like disruptive and embarrassing moment of my athletic career. I got subbed out immediately after. I got people laughing at me and pointing at me. And I felt like, and this was towards the end of the season. I think we had like 4 games left before playoffs, or 5 games left before playoffs. And it destroyed me mentally. Immediately after I got subbed out, grabbed my stuff, I went to the locker room. I just broke down and cried. I was banging myself against the locker, smashing the bench with my foot and my hand, and pretty much just bawled my eyes out for the remainder of the game. The team came back. They were trying to be really supportive, and I'm very thankful for those guys for caring. But I was just like a mess. I thought like the whole season, senior year, was just a waste. I felt worthless. I was also going through a little bit of stuff mentally. Because the pressures and stuff, not knowing what you want to do after high school. It was just a lot building up, and I wasn't in a good headspace. But that was a very defining moment of basketball. Another one too was when I had a little like neck spasm. It was the playoffs, and we were losing by 30, and coach was like, I can't put you in, because like I was like shooting in warm-ups. It was the weirdest thing ever, and my neck like kinked down. I literally couldn't turn right, and I could barely like pass the ball with my right arm. And there was like 5 minutes left. My coach, can you just put me in? He wouldn't put me in. Again, nothing against you. Probably the right call at the time, so I did not get hurt. But literally like a huge neck spasm to where like I could not move my right side of my body. He wouldn't even put me in on the court. And like, again, it just broke me down. I'm like, damn, dude, I totally wasted a whole season. Like, I should have played wrestling, or I should have wrestled or something else, or even just taken off for the winter. And I just felt worthless. So that always taught me to be thankful, be patient, have perseverance. It built my mental character, man. I never wanted a season to end more, honestly, than that season. So if you've ever felt that way, I know exactly how you feel. I hope this helps a little bit. But that was my experience with basketball, and it made me hate basketball, unfortunately, for a little bit. But I'm good now. Basketball and I, we're good friends, played intramurals in college. It was fun. There's no pressure. I got to play, actually, and shoot and score and play defense, and the camaraderie with teammates was awesome. So yeah, that was pretty much my athletic career: basketball, soccer, lacrosse, and a little bit of track. So dipping a little bit more into now why I started the social media platform as we end this talk. So I wanted to do social media not because I want to get famous and thought it was like the thing to do, but simply because I saw other people were on social media and sharing information about health and fitness. I was getting a lot of questions at the time because in college where I really started to learn and develop my body, and people were wondering and texting me, hitting me up constantly. Yo, Beaker, what are you doing to get more fit? Yo, you're looking ripped and swollen, bulked up. Like, how are you doing that? So I was like, I'm gonna make a platform or an account on Instagram. Start posting stuff, workouts here and there, stuff that people could follow. They're requesting, like, you know, give me an ab workout. How do you start with CrossFit? Like, what have you been working on? That kind of thing. And I was like, okay, cool. I can document this story. And that's where it all began. I started posting about food, and I started posting about how to improve like handstand push-ups, and then basic ab workouts, stuff in the gym that people could do themselves that wasn't CrossFit related, but more probably bodybuilder related, and just learning the game of it all. So I started Instagram, and I think the next thing I got, originally the OG social media platform was Snapchat in high school, but I got away with it. I didn't even like social media. My girlfriend convinced me to get social media. And I had a real account, and then I had the fitness account that you see now, which is Joshua_Beaker, which originally was Boshua Fit, RIP to that account. But glad I changed it over to Joshua Beaker, as now it's a little bit more marketable. But yeah, so Instagram, OG was so Snapchat. So I got Instagram, I got Twitter, because Gary Vaynerchuk told me to get Twitter. Wasn't on Facebook too much because I thought it was for old people, but now I see it's a great avenue to still share information and market to people. I got into YouTube in the last year. It was the start of quarantine. I made my YouTube channel. So we're on a whole new reboot. LinkedIn have not posted much, but I think I should post more, mixing work and fitness together. Just talking aloud a little bit, expressing ideas. And I think that's it. Oh yeah, TikTok, duh. That was probably how you found me through this. TikTok started in late September. It was in the middle of soccer season. Started posting some videos. Gary Vaynerchuk again telling me this is it. You gotta get on this. And here we are with 100K on TikTok. As of now. As of February 14th, 2021. And so yeah. I think that's everything up to that point. So we're now up to the undocumented life, to now the starting of the documented life, which we will do in a separate episode. But that is it. It is 10:30. I feel like I've emptied the clip on what I need to tell you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in for the first episode. I hope you guys tune in for some more. I hope you keep having these discussions. I'm going to bring in some guests I got lined up. And I also hope to show you too and discuss the Boston Invitational that I just did. The qualifier this weekend. And hopefully we can talk about if I make it. We're going to dissect some film, talk a little bit about CrossFit as the Open's coming up. So some really exciting stuff. So again, thank you guys for tuning in to Empty the Clip with your host, Joshua Beaker. Take care, guys.